Explosive new evidence in the Russia collusion hoax is pointing the spotlight squarely on Hilary Clinton.
And now the CIA director has made criminal referrals.
We're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax.
I'm Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. It's Friday, August 1st, and this is Morning Wire.
It's trade deal deadline day. Which countries managed to seal the deal and which are facing steep new tariffs?
And conservative parental rights group Moms for Liberty has been labeled a hate group in Massachusetts police training.
It's crazy that we are in a time when Moms for Liberty is listed in this training with organizations, with neo-Nazi groups, with Antifa.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
In those moments when money isn't moving as fast as your life is, Earnin helps give you the financial momentum you need to keep moving forward. Earnin is an app that lets you access your pay as you earn it up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit check, and no mandatory fees. Imagine a night out with friends, a mere 2 days before payday, and you're a little short. Earnin's got you. Download Earnin today, spelled E-A-R-N-I-N, in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in Morning Wire under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. That's Morning Wire under podcasts. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Standard cash outs take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Tips are voluntary and do not affect the service. Available in selected states. Terms and restrictions do apply. Visit earnin.com for full details. Download Earnin now and take control of your pay.
A new bombshell has been dropped in the Russiagate investigation, and it implicates Hilary Clinton. Senator Chuck Grassley released new documents Thursday from former special counsel John Durham's report suggesting the Obama-era FBI ignored intelligence that Clinton's campaign greenlit the promotion of the false Russia collusion narrative, in part to distract from her classified email controversy.
Joining us to discuss the newly declassified evidence is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo. Hey, Amanda. So the hits keep coming on Russiagate, and there are some big ones here. So these new documents come from the declassified annex of Durham's investigation into the 2016 election. What does it show?
Yeah. Hey, John. So FBI Director Kash Patel says he discovered the documents in a burn bag in a back room at the FBI. He says the documents reveal evidence that the Clinton campaign, quote, plotted to frame President Trump and fabricate the Russia collusion hoax. Per the documents, the Obama administration received intelligence in 2016 suggesting that Hilary Clinton approved a campaign plan proposed by her foreign policy advisor, Julianne Smith. The hope there was to derail the FBI's probe into Clinton's unauthorized use of her private email server and to smear her rival in the presidential race by linking Donald Trump to Russia. Smith, by the way, was later appointed to serve as ambassador to NATO under President Biden. The Obama administration obtained 2 memos detailing conversations between then DNC Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz and officials from the Soros-founded Open Society Foundations. One memo claimed Obama aimed to stop an FBI probe into Clinton's private email server, while the other outlined a strategy to discredit Trump with fabricated Russian ties. That allegedly involved Clinton staff and possibly even the FBI and CIA.
And the evidence suggests this plan to push the Russia hoax was extensive, correct?
Yeah, very elaborate, and it played out as detailed in these documents. So in July, the FBI received further intelligence, including alleged emails from Soros official Leonard Bernardo detailing a plan to use firms like CrowdStrike to spread disinformation through media. And it also expected the FBI to help to, quote, put more oil into the fire. The emails suggested Clinton herself approved the move to distract from her email scandal. Durham's team spoke with analysts and officers who determined that these emails were likely authentic. The Durham Annex shows that the FBI shared this intelligence regarding the Clinton plan with high-ranking Obama DOJ officials on March 31st, 2016. The annex affirms that multiple high-ranking officials were made aware of the situation. Basically, they all knew. There was a White House briefing on August 3rd, 2016, where CIA Director John Brennan presented this information. In the briefing was President Obama, VP Biden, DNI James Clapper, and FBI Director James Comey, among other high-ranking officials. It says that notes from Brennan show that the CIA sent an investigative referral to the FBI in September of 2016 that included the, quote, purported Clinton campaign plan.
So the CIA produced its own referral. What did the CIA find?
Yeah, so this is one of the most heavily redacted parts of the annex. So it says the CIA prepared a written assessment in 2017 on the authenticity and veracity of this Clinton campaign plan intelligence. Here's a direct quote. The CIA stated that it did not assess the above redacted memoranda or redacted hacked U.S. communications to be the product of Russian fabrications. In other words, the agency analyzed the hacked U.S. communications and this apparent Clinton plan to vilify Trump, and it found them credible.
Obviously, massive claims here. What has been the political response so far?
Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, Republicans are up in arms about this. During an interview on Fox News over the weekend, CIA Director John Ratcliffe said that he had been working to secure the release of a classified section from Durham's report.
What that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to.
Ratcliffe also says he's made criminal referrals for several Obama officials.
You know, Pam Bondi does have a strike force. It is a different Department of Justice, a different FBI, and an opportunity to look at how these people really did conspire to run a hoax, a fraud on the American people and against Donald Trump's presidency.
Well, another day and just more questions to be answered related to this Russiagate scandal. Let's hope we get more light on all the relevant evidence. Amanda, thanks so much for reporting.
You're welcome.
You know that nagging feeling about the doctor's appointment you've been putting off forever? Maybe it's that dentist cleaning you're now 6 months overdue for. Whatever it is, today might actually be the day to stop procrastinating. With Zdoc, you can find and book the right doctor entirely online, and honestly, you'll probably have an appointment booked before the end of this ad. Zdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. They've got over 100,000 doctors across every specialty you can think of: mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, you name it. The best part is you can filter for exactly what matters. Doctors who take your insurance are nearby and have great ratings from actual patients. Most appointments happen within 24 to 72 hours, but you can often get same-day slots when you need them. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/wire to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/wire, ZocDoc.com/wire today.
President Trump's long-awaited tariff deadline has finally arrived, with massive rates slapped on any country that still hasn't made a trade deal with the U.S.
Here to break it all down is Daily Wire senior editor Cabot Phillips. So, Cabot, a lot to address with the clock ticking down. What's the latest?
Yeah, over the past few months, President Trump has repeatedly moved his deadline back multiple times to give our trading partners more time to negotiate. But this time, August 1st, he stood firm. At midnight last night, his deadline arrived, and a number of countries who have not yet agreed to terms began facing massive tariffs, anywhere from 15 to 50%. The highest rates will now apply to those countries with the largest trade deficits with the U.S., meaning countries that export more to America than they import. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt setting the scene yesterday from the White House.
We'll see what happens. I do know foreign leaders are ringing his phone, realizing this deadline is a real thing for them tomorrow, and they're bringing offers to the table.
And just hours before the clock struck midnight, the White House began announcing to the world tariff rates for all those countries who had not yet reached an agreement with the U.S. Those were signed into effect by executive order, but will not technically begin until August 7th. That order also includes a provision that applies a 40% tariff on any goods deemed to be transshipped. In those cases, countries like China ship goods to a lower import country where they're repackaged with the hopes of slipping through and avoiding higher tariff rates. So the White House is making sure that any country without a deal has no way out of it.
Now, which countries didn't make a deal in time?
So we'll start with India. Trump says that they will now be hit with a 25% tariff, and importantly, also an additional penalty for doing business with Russia. Remember, Trump had hinted in the past that he would use secondary tariffs to try and cut off financial support for Moscow, and this seems to be the first example of that strategy. Writing on Truth Social, he said, quote, India has always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia and are Russia's largest buyer of energy at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine. He then took really an extraordinary direct shot saying, quote, I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. And that seemed to get the attention of Indian leaders as a number of their state refiners responded just hours later by pausing all purchases of Russian oil.
So some strong words there. Who else was left out?
Yeah, Brazil was another country hit particularly hard. On Thursday, the White House announced a slew of sanctions along with a 50% tariff. That's the largest that we've seen. That move was driven not just by a large trade deficit, which we do have with Brazil, but also the president's anger over state censorship there and what he calls the political persecution of former Brazilian president and Trump ally Jair Bolsonaro. From there, he slapped 20% rates on Vietnam, Taiwan, and Sri Lanka, 15% on Bolivia, Ecuador, and Nigeria. The list goes on and on. No one was exempt here. And among the hardest hit was Canada, America's second largest trading partner. A host of their products will now face 35% tariffs, which would be just devastating for them, given the fact that 3/4 of all Canadian exports come to the U.S. And it's worth noting, Canada's decision to back Palestinian statehood this month is playing a factor in a potential trade deal. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada.
Now, there were some last-minute deals made right before the deadline. Tell us about those.
Yeah, just before the deadline, Donald Trump announced a huge agreement with South Korea. As part of the terms, South Korea has agreed to invest $350 billion in American businesses while purchasing an additional $100 billion in natural gas. At the same time, they've agreed to no tariffs on American goods and the removal of additional non-tariff barriers. That means American goods will be allowed into every sector of their economy. And then there was Mexico, which was really the only country to get an extension from Trump. Remember, they agreed on a temporary deal earlier in the summer that included a 25% fentanyl tariff and a 50% rate for steel, aluminum, and copper. Now, that agreement was initially contingent on Mexico cutting down on the flow of drugs and migrants across the border. Trump conceded that, quote, the complexities of a deal with Mexico are somewhat different than other nations because of both the problems and assets of the border. So he's giving them a bit more time to prove that they really are cutting down on the border, and then a trade deal will be reassessed.
Well, a deal with Mexico would be huge. Cabot, thanks for reporting.
Absolutely.
Conservative parental rights group Moms for Liberty has been labeled a hate group in Massachusetts police trainings.
In a Daily Wire exclusive, Moms for Liberty shared the internal police training documents they obtained. Daily Wire reporter Mairead Lordy is here with more. Hey, Mairead. So tell us about these police training documents.
Hi, John. Sure. So these trainings are from the Massachusetts Municipal Police Training Committee, which trains more than 20,000 police officers in the state. Moms for Liberty submitted a Freedom of Information request and obtained some of the training materials. And shockingly, they listed Moms for Liberty in their section on hate groups. The training cited the far-left Southern Poverty Law Center, which calls Moms for Liberty an anti-government extremist group. And as a reminder, Moms for Liberty is a national group that fights for parental rights in schools. It was formed in 2021 during the pandemic as parents were fighting for schools to reopen and as students were suffering serious learning loss. It was during that time that parents were discovering controversial curriculum content in their children's schools, things like sexual books not appropriate for the ages they were being given to. We spoke to Tina Descovich, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, about what they discovered in the police trainings.
Moms for Liberty is here to show up at school board meetings, speak out against curriculum, failing schools, inappropriate books, maybe in your public school library. Antifa is burning down whole cities and parts of cities and rioting in the streets. These two are not equivalent.
First, it's alarming to see the Southern Poverty Law Center still being cited as authoritative despite their glaring political agenda. Now, going back to the training itself, what exactly were police taught about Moms for Liberty?
Yes, so the Massachusetts Municipal Police Training Committee said Moms for Liberty has targeted, quote, books that reference race and gender identity and, quote, use parents' rights as a vehicle to attack public education and make schools less welcoming for minority and LGBTQ students. Descovich had some thoughts on that.
We want parents to have the ability to opt out of sexualized books or curriculum, things that don't align with their religious beliefs, as the Supreme Court just affirmed in their most recent ruling in the Montgomery County, Maryland case. We have parental rights that were given to us by God. We have parental rights that have been affirmed by the Supreme Court of the United States that we can opt out of some of these things or opt into other curriculum. And so we just want parents to be the driving factor in a child's education.
The training also links to 2 articles from PBS attacking Moms for Liberty. Funny enough, the group listed right before Moms for Liberty was Antifa, and the training linked to an article calling Antifa a relatively small threat across the country, so downplaying their role despite how much damage the group has done in cities across this country. Deskovich weighed in on that as well.
PBS is anything but fair and balanced. They are extremely biased. They have at least written 2 articles now about us, calling us things that we are not. And now the state of Massachusetts is using those PBS articles to target us, to put a target on our back and tell police in that state that we are a threat. All we are is moms and dads that are concerned about our children, that are speaking up in a public forum, which we have the constitutional right to do.
The training also noted that Moms for Liberty works to elect conservative candidates to local school boards, so we'll have to see if and how this Massachusetts committee responds now that their trainings are public. But in the meantime, tens of thousands of cops across the state are being taught Moms for Liberty is dangerous.
And we'll see if having a national spotlight shined on them will result in any changes. Right, thanks so much for reporting.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for waking up with us. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We'll be back later this evening with more news you need to know.